And then there's some reduced fat products that are complete fat products, like reduced fat potato chips. I mean, potato chips are fried to a crisp. What about something like light Karo syrup or light milk? Light milk only has 25% less fat than the full fat version. Other light products besides milk have to have 50% less fat than comparable products. So you got the milk industry being allowed to have 25% less fat to be called light milk. But other products have to have 50% less. 2% milk is another one. You see, 2% sounds like such a low number. But you know what the percentage of fat in a whole milk is? It's only 3.25%. So 2% milk does contain less fat than whole milk, but not that much. 2% milk may also say reduced fat because it has 25% less fat than whole milk. But the only milk that really meets the standard for being labeled low fat is 1% or skim milk. But not even that is actually low fat. The real definition of low fat when it comes to milk is to be less than 0.5%, and you'll have trouble finding that anywhere. You see, the dairy industry has found just about every way to fool you. I mean, they have to. Their products are so bad for you that they have to do everything they can to make it look like they're good for you. What about cholesterol? Cholesterol is found only in animal products. So if you see cholesterol-free written on any non-animal product, the joke is on you. This is a prime example of marketers exploiting your ignorance. Non-animal foods don't contain cholesterol in the first place. So the label is true, but it's entirely ludicrous. And the label no cholesterol doesn't even translate literally. It does not mean no cholesterol as you'd expect. The actual standard is that for a product to be labeled cholesterol-free, it only has to contain less than 2 milligrams per serving of cholesterol. Low cholesterol products have to contain 20 milligrams or less per serving. Reduced or less cholesterol products only have to have 25% less than comparable products. So do you see how deceiving it all is? Did you have any idea that none of this labeling language means what you think it means? You never can believe anything you see about lower cholesterol. Don't even think about it. Oh, and what about zero trans fat? Do you know what that means? I mean, what does zero mean to you? Zero? Well, if you thought zero meant zero in zero trans fat terminology, you would be wrong. That's right. Instead of zero, it means less than or equal to 0.5. Even in basic math, 0.5 was rounded up to 1. You learned that in about 4th grade. Oh, but not here. When it comes to trans fat labeling on food, 0 means up to 0.5. And remember, this is per serving. So what the food companies do is just change the serving size so that the trans fat value is 0.5 or lower, and then they put 0 grams of trans fat on the label. To put this into perspective for you, the WHO, World Health Organization, says that you should eat no more than 2 grams of trans fat daily. And you could very easily consume that much by eating nothing but 0 trans fat foods. Pretty shocking, isn't it? And that's not the only kind of low-fat labeling out there to fool you. There's even low-fat candy. And if it's candy, the low-fat designation just means that it's pure sugar. And what about the good old sugar-free labels? Let's see, there's sugar-free, no sugar added, lightly sweetened. Sugar-free does not mean the product has fewer calories than the regular version. It actually may have more. Sugar-free products have less than 0.5 grams of sugar per serving, but they still contain calories from other sources. And sometimes they contain sugar alcohols, which are lower in calories, but they cause diarrhea and they have 2 calories per gram, whereas sugar has 4 calories per gram. So products containing no sugar added just mean that they probably already contain a lot of natural sugar. It does not mean it's low in calories or in carbohydrates. The only things included in the no added sugar or no sugar added labeling requirement by the food industry are sugar cane, honey, and syrup. All other sugars are allowed. So low calorie means that chemical sweetener has probably been added. And one of the biggest offenders is diet sodas. Low calorie soft drinks are full of phosphoric acid that corrodes your teeth and bones terribly, and they are not low calorie. You just need to know that sugar comes in many forms, and any label pertaining to sugar is probably untrue. And the more the label downplays the amount of sugar, the more sugar there is in the product. Okay, and another one is gluten-free. Gluten-free products are everywhere. They may not have gluten, but they may have all sorts of other things that are hidden. And sometimes they contain insecticides. Remember, gluten-free has absolutely nothing to do with being anything else like organic, non-GMO. And if you don't have gluten intolerance or celiac disease, gluten is actually good for you. Okay, so the things to look out in the what's missing category are fat-free, cholesterol-free, light, zero trans fat, low fat, sugar-free, low calorie diet, and gluten-free. And lastly, there are a bunch of terms related to how the animals you eat were raised. Most of them do not mean what you expect them to mean. Here are a few examples. Free range only means access to the outdoors. It has nothing to do with requiring that the animal actually went outdoors. You think they're out running in the field, but all it requires is exposure to the outdoors. So if there was an open window near the cage, it qualifies as free range with regard to the definition by the food industry. Cage-free is a term that is often confused with free range. Cage-free can mean housed inside a barn with no access to the outdoors. It's only the cage that's missing. Grass-fed does not distinguish between the animal being in a pasture versus only feeding the animal organic feed. And it doesn't mean there were no hormones or antibiotics in the feed. Pasture-raised has no legal definition at all. Neither does the word pastured. It can mean whatever the producer wants it to mean. You see, with no formal definition or regulation, there's just no enforcement. Vegetarian-fed eggs is a complete oxymoron. Chickens are omnivores. They eat bugs and insects as well as grain, and they can actually get very sick if they don't eat animal products. So all the labels on animal products specifying anything about how the animal was raised or fed are pretty bogus. So you're probably thinking you can't believe anything that's on a food package, and frankly, you can't. The bottom line is that labeling is marketing. Nothing on the package has to be true, and none of the language means what you think it means. You don't even know the standards for making these claims. So it's none of these product manufacturers is doing anything other than following the rules of their industry. You just don't know the rules of the industry. You have to understand that these rules are for purposes of advertising, and marketers will always find a way to get around all of the regulations. So my message to you is ignore everything on the package. And if you can, don't even buy packaged foods. Okay, so I'm out of time with this broadcast. You know I'm Menopause Taylor, and you know my menopause website is menopausetaylor.me, and you know that I'm all about the education. So go to my website, see what I've got to offer you, and tune into the next broadcast, which will be next week. And I'm so glad you listened to this, and I hope you're not totally shocked. Talk to you again later. Bye.